everyone, it's Carolyn here to share more channeled messages. So this time we've got Jennifer and myself again having a conversation. So what we do is we really don't pre-plan our conversations. We just get on the computer together and see what shows up. But it's really interesting because what showed up today is really relevant for right now. What we're going to be, I'm going to run through a list here so I don't miss anything. So it's really a theme of how do we maintain our sovereignty, our sovereign beingness during all that is happening in the collective with everything that's flying around us, which includes fear, lower energies, all of that, or our lower self, if you want to call it that, and we'll talk about that too. And dealing with that and how we can deal with it more effectively. So Jennifer and I, for those of you who have listened to us before, we talk about the same thing, but we get it in different, we get the information in different ways. And also how this works for us, and you'll see this, is she'll be talking, and as she's talking, I'm getting channeled information and visuals, which then add to the story of what she's saying and gives more information typically. So this is really a back and forth conversation. Hopefully you will take something away from the conversation. Like I always said, one or two things that will apply to your own journey or open up your mind a little bit more. So we're going to cover today, like I said, being a sovereign being, fear, lower energies, and tips on what you can do when you're kind of feeling like you're just collecting a lot of stuff that's not yours, right? We're going to talk about old earth structures, and a lot of this ties to the videos that I've recently done, so it's very timely, in fact, particularly with what's going to be coming up in the fall. And I'm going to be doing the October energy update here shortly, so I'm getting some sense of things. So this is going to be real important for moving forward. This is about also empowering yourself. And recognizing who you really are, really recognizing who you are, and not just the tip of the iceberg, the whole iceberg. We're also going to touch on how we are an Earth experiment, and we'll give you some more detail there. But primarily, hopefully you'll walk away with some ideas on some things to do, as well as a little more, I'll just say, collective perspective on all of what's going on and how you can, again, like we said, and we use this term, remain the sovereign being that you are, but still part of the collective. All right, so I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening and ascension mentor. So I offer these channels for you and these conversations so that you can get tips and tricks and more information for your ascension and awakening journey. So thank you again so much for joining me today. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It very much helps me get the messages out because, like I said, hopefully everybody takes something away and is able to add that to the puzzle of their own journey. So for those of you who are new, down below in the description box, you're going to see how you can get more information, more channeled information. First of all, it'll take you to a video on flow. There's a link down there that'll send you to that. The video talks about how you can create flow in your body for health and wellness, but really more importantly, it adds you to my email list where I just send you an email a week, usually Friday or Saturday, and it's a channeled, beautiful message from the light keepers, who are the angelic beings that I channel on a regular basis, for those of you who don't know that. So join me there too, as well as Facebook. Purple Rain Healing is where I post all of their poems, so that's a beautiful way to get a neat message as well. So today I'm just going to go ahead and let you listen to us. It's a pretty extensive video. So then I'm going to close out at the end, and I'm going to read you something from, and it's really interesting, this has all come up at the same time. I'm going to read you something from the book I recommended the other day, The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. It's amazing because I hit on a saying in here, or a piece that ties directly to this video. And I want to leave you with that because I think it really drives home what we're talking about here. And also give you maybe a little summary of this book and how it was framed up. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll catch up with you afterwards. So much dramatic stuff happening right now.
There is. It's really interesting too. There's incredible, huge stories that are unraveling right now that I'm watching. Okay. And so it's not lost on you. And I get into these larger things that, how this sounds, but you know me and you know what I've been through and you know the level at which some of this stuff has happened. It's been so extreme, almost to the unbelievable, an almost impossible point. Okay. And so here we're in this process of going through and a lot of this weird stuff is happening. And I'm starting to see what is actually going on, what story is actually at play, and what is being now, at least with me. And it seems as though when I realize it, I demand that it is not going to happen. It starts to come apart, but they're not, there's energies that are, it's like opening up a nest of hornets. And when you say you're not getting this nest, and you pull it apart, they all go crazy. Okay. But that's kind of what's happening right now. There is I don't want to get too, I don't want to put anybody in fear, but I also think that there is a point where people need to be aware of certain things in order to be sovereign.
Yeah.
I think some of the things that are happening, like with the gentleman you were talking about, it's so overwhelming and it is so out of character for them that that in itself scares them. It's not like a recurring episode of something that they've experienced in their life. It's like out of the blue and it's extreme, right? So they're going, it puts them into this. One of the things that coincide with a lot of these very extreme situations is the power of the being that it's occurring to. So a lot of times when I see these massive attacks on people's beings, I'm going to include myself in this because I felt the power of my being come through me too, right? So I'm going to say this from my own experience and seeing others. Some of these extreme things that happen are a indication of the level of power and mastery that your being actually has.
So something that you just said brought about a visual for me and it's similar to the conversation that I had. And then I, lo and behold, synchronistically find it in the book that I'm reading, The Aquarian Age Gospel of Jesus the Christ. It literally showed up this morning was as we experience, we'll just call it the lower energies or the dark. The dark is actually part of the light. The light and dark are the same. It's just reflected differently. But what happens is when someone starts going into fear of that dark, as I think we all know, guess what? It just explodes. And the dark or lower energies then start taking over, but it's all manifest within the human too. So basically, you make a point, and I kind of want to get to this part too, is we're sovereign. We have the power over all of those energies, because it's actually, the universe is within us. So it's all housed within us, and how we actually then manage through it. But because we've been taught to be fearful of certain things, right? In humankind, through religion and all of that, then what we do is we plow into fear state, feel as though we don't have any control and that we're being overtaken. And then we can be overtaken.
Yeah, because we are actually having that, we're believing that is a sensation we're having. And I can say, I say this with zero judgment because I went through months of it myself. Okay. So I'm coming from a place, I understand what's happening here. It is not fun. But you have to, I got to a point where I started to realize my higher being started to come in more fully. They started to push their way through so I could feel it. And I'm like, wow. So when I feel myself, I have no fear. And I try to go, how do you ever, and I feel my own being come in. How am I ever afraid of anything? There's nothing that can touch me.
Exactly.
But some of us haven't had that experience. And then when you're not necessarily fully in your being and these things happen, sometimes you can slip a little and forget how powerful you are. But there is a balance. And we talked about this in the last video about having the light and the dark, one going out, one staying behind. as a balance. So I want to give those people who are having extreme kind of scary or frightening things come over them, I want to give them the understanding that the level of extremity is only a balance to the level of mastery and power that your being is. So
yes, exactly. And in fact, it's funny you said that, because that actually came in this morning as I was dealing with the situation, and I thought, oh, it's where he is.
yes.
And I think the thing too, though, for most people is, as we sit here and talk about how to manage through this, or how to stay sovereign. So many people, though, are coming from a place of having been taught through, and I just keep using religion, but many other things, that all these entities are scary. You know, we got the exorcism movies, we have all those movies, we have all the dark movies, we have all of this. And so therefore, most people are like, oh God, oh, you know, I'll just have to succumb. So the point here is, I wonder if we could talk a bit about, as we go through this conversation, what worked for you, what worked for us. I've had my own situation, but it's a little different than yours. Yours is pretty, elaborate. But what they can do to actually, I keep going back to claim their sovereignty. Does that resonate with maybe what we want to talk about at all?
Yes, I think it does. And I think now is an important time to do this.
I do too.
Because we are kind of at the ready or not, here we come stage of integration. Okay. So, like you said, we have a lot of visuals. There's horror movies. There's all kinds of things that we have picked up on, all of this elaborate, So when we feel something, especially that we cannot necessarily see or don't understand where it's coming from, we have a plethora of imagery, right, to pull and put ourselves in fear, right?
Yes.
So
no, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What I was going to say was, in addition to that, is we have that piece that you're going to talk about, but we also have how we feel about ourselves, right?
Yes.
Where we're living within ourselves. And so many people, we've all been there in one way or another, our self-worth, our value, our all of that control that we maybe haven't had in our human life, and others have had control over us. So then that even makes us more vulnerable.
Yes.
So go ahead and talk.
Well, I think one of the turning point for me, and I started to lose fear of almost everything. There's really not a lot that scares me anymore. If anything, now discomfort is something that's just more annoying than it is anything else, but I'm not afraid of anything anymore. So, but I don't want necessarily everybody to go through what I went through to get there either, right? So what I would suggest is to remember and take my words to heart, that your being is more powerful and there's nobody bigger than you. And you need to imagine and hold yourself and believe that that is true, because it is true. So any of the things that come to you, as difficult as they are, you need to remember, at your core, nothing can touch you. So you're maybe feeling these things, and a lot of the emotions may be coming up. Things are difficult for you. Remember, this is the zig to my zag. This is the yin to my yang. This is the counter power to my power. And it's not something necessarily that is, I don't like to say, oh, you're bringing it to yourself, it's you, because it makes people feel like, no, it's not me, and I've been there too. But it's only as much as you're already capable of counteracting. So,
which goes back to what you said was the power, or I don't know, status. What'd you say? The level of the being, of the person.
Right.
Yes.
That's right. So, when we were talking about allowing, being a counterweight to the one that's going to go out and explore the darkness and then eventually find his way back home. Well, some of them are coming home now. Okay.
Yeah.
They're coming home, and they could only go as far as their counter would allow. So something comes back and you're interfacing with something that seems very what? Remember, that is no more power than you do.
In fact, what popped in as you were talking about this is the saying that you're never given more than you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
It's actually a law. It's actually a law of the universe. A quantum physics law. Basically, you are a counterweight to what you can handle.
That makes sense.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, within this equation, we have to remember that we are in a human experience too. So our human is in between almost these two things, but you house your larger being as well. So it's easy to feel small when things start being overwhelming to you, when you start feeling large energy.
Right. And you start feeling powerless and
make yourself bigger. When you start feeling these things, make yourself bigger. Even if it's a visual as silly as like the Incredible Hulk, right? When he gets mad, he's huge. Or
emanating your light out, like growing
expand your
field. Yes.
Yes. And so when these things come to you, make yourself bigger, right? That's all I can say. Like energetically push yourself bigger. Allow yourself to expand. Even when sometimes when you get overwhelmed, we tend to go defensive and make ourselves contracted.
And we make
go the other direction.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So there's things happening now. Things are coming undone. Things that are really, really old. I have a little bit more of a several planes come storylines running, and I'm being able to see and hear many of the things that are coming undone, many of the eons long age from antiquity, structures of entrapment that we, as adventurers went out and we created to the deepest depths, right? Many of these things now are being flipped upside down as these ones are coming home, right?
Go ahead. I just got a visual. So as you talk, I keep getting these visuals. I think there's a reference to that in, I don't know if it was Indiana Jones, but the movies where weren't these entities coming out from the ground, like old ancient, there's some movie series that all these, as they were digging, all the old ancient entities were coming out to be confronted. That's what the visual is they're giving me. I don't remember what movie it is, but what they're talking about and showing me when you're talking about this is, guess what? And we're doing eons of clearing, not just right now. All of what we've built that we see now has been built from the eons. And so all of that has to come up too. Does that make sense? It's not just what's now, it's what we built upon.
Yes.
It's the basement. It's what they're showing.
That's right. God.
I have chills. Like what's in the basement? Like this crummy old basement from.
Yes. Yes. And let me tell you, there are some energies and some beings that are reappearing from being almost what you would think of as being buried under some of this stuff, that are fabulous and beautiful and mind-blowing. And like I said, ancient, some of them, we actually tapped on this a while back, you and I, in one of our sessions. We were trying to understand the energy. We were trying to kind of, back in the beginning where we were really trying to identify who I was. We were trying to figure out, and they were saying, there's some beings that are so old, so-called old, that even cosmically, galactically, some of the higher realm, they don't even know who they are.
Exactly.
Right? They're so old. There's so much of the origin. There's so much of the, that are they don't even have a name even. There's many that don't even know they exist, right?
Exactly.
And some of these, I don't know if you remember hearing about our understanding of what the goddess energy is. We all kind of may have a different level of understanding, but there is something there about a ancient energy that's been suppressed for eons that most people don't even realize she exists.
Right. Okay. Let me just add something real quick, because what I'm getting when you talk, I get visuals that just add to this. So I guess that's how this is going to work. I don't know. But what I'm getting is we just talked about the basement, and we were talking about the icky stuff that's in the basement that was built. But at the same time, they said to me, diamonds and gems, when you said that have never been. So all those gods, goddesses, all the goodness that's been buried for eons is also coming up as well out of the basement. So it's not just one-sided. All right. It's
right.
all showing up, and and they're showing the visual of the earthquake. Okay. And shaking the basement of the structure. All right, that old, structure, shaking the basement, and up comes everything else. And then all these structures, our old belief systems, our structures, our constructs are starting to crumble into dust. But in the meantime, all that's unleashed for us to deal with now, right? So that we now then start building our new constructs, I guess I'll say, or our new earth in essence. But all that's coming up, that's been hidden for eons, all the goodness too. And this is also why they just took me to Atlantis, something about Atlantis, and they just said revisiting. So maybe we can hit on that, but go ahead.
Sure. No, I think that it's really, it's so hard to like explain the depth of what I'm trying to explain here, because I've gotten past so many layers of fear, pain, and struggle in my own journey that I now see things very differently. So I'm looking at it like what I see emerging from a lot of this stuff that can appear to be scary, but in essence, in reality, it's not. It's not scary. It is the massive and amazingly huge, beautiful, mind-blowing origins of our being. Now we talk about this before, we as just even humankind have lost so much idea about what we are capable of, who we are and our being. But even beyond humankind, it's so massive. We can't really even conceptualize it.
No.
The level of and that is the type of energy that I feel making these cracks, and the light starting to come through, and the energy, Carolyn. It's something that we have never even begun to be able to conceive of.
Yeah. And just let me interject real quickly. What they're indicating to me right now is that, and this sounds really profound, but in this ascension time, everything that we've ever created, and I'm talking in the collective, they just said is up for grabs, meaning it's all coming up. It's all showing up in one way or another to be dealt with, either in our individual journey of what we've created for our own individual journey, but the larger perspective from the collective journey as well. Going back eons, it feels to me like what they're trying to tell me is that we're not just dealing with the surface stuff. They gave us the basement analogy, but we're dealing with what we have. But since like the fall,
yes,
we're dealing with all of this since the fall, because we really haven't dealt with any of it previously. Maybe in little pods we have, but now we're dealing with it collectively. But it's everything since the fall of humankind to now come out into our glory that you're talking about, the power that we really are, that we don't see within our own individual selves, which is what the awakening is here to teach us, that that's what we are. And that's our journey that we're on, is to find that power that you're talking about.
Yes. And, I've noticed that even some of the very enlightened, high energy, high vibrational beings that I've communicated with through my journey that are just, even like the Christ consciousness energy. I talk to the Raw Collective a lot. Yeshua, these different energies that they're so, the different ascended masters or whomever they seems to be incredibly, and they are incredibly enlightened, high vibrational beings. I've come to realize that some of these beings aren't even consciously aware of the actual massive enormity of the energy that's about to come up now.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is unknown heretofore, meaning the energies that you're talking about. I don't think we've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we haven't. I mean, we haven't in the collective. I think, no, unknown heretofore. But this makes sense because if you go to, and I'm just going to use some religious words because most people can kind of relate to this. We talk about the,
are you talking about the rapture or?
Rapture. Thank you.
Rapture.
That's what we're talking about. Okay, just to clarify, we're talking about the rapture. Okay, so for some reason we've misinterpreted that. Okay, just in standard Christianity, just saying, needless to say, rapture. Mm-hmm. What they're saying to me is that's where this is what's happening. And that's where we're going to be seeing this new power that we've not, they said, seen heretofore. Can you make any sense of that?
Okay, I might be individually, uniquely able to speak to this. I don't know how many other, I don't want to say that there might be others that have tapped into this too, but my journey, as you know, has been something of being far outside the typical.
Oh yeah.
I have tapped into energy. There's at least two. I'm starting to feel a third. Mm-hmm. That is something that is so unexplainably, dynamically, eclectically, fabulously magnificent. I can't even, there's no words for it. And I feel like I've gone into areas that nobody has been in eons in order to tap into this. And I've run into it, right? Run into these different, and one time we were talking about this and they said something, I said, I ran into this energy and it felt like it was just like this massive overwhelm of energy, but it was so beautiful. And I got into the emotion and mind of the energy, and it just kind of like washed over me, and I was blown away. And I couldn't even explain it. It was so amazing. It was so beautiful and so tortured and so loving. And there was so much depth. And I mean, it was just unbelievable. And I said, I ran into this energy. I'm not sure who and how it's associated to my being. And they said, you ran it like you ran it, they called it the big kahuna, remember?
Yeah.
You remember
I do remember that, yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying there's these energies that are just incredible. And these things are what are coming back through now. They're nothing you've ever felt before, but they feel so dimensional, so deep. They're so interesting. There's so much to them. It's unbelievable. And now I felt about 3 different, very distinct, huge energies like this now. So that's why I want to, going back to the beginning about some of this stuff, had I had these experiences in the beginning when I was having a lot of these fearful things that were, these kind of, I had a few experiences where very harsh emotions came through me and made me feel things that I'd never felt before, like homicidal rage. I've never really felt that before, but it flowed through me. And I'm like, okay, that's not coming from me. Wow.
Okay. Can I stop you there?
Yes.
I want to comment on that. I'm getting a lot of information, but they talked about how when you just had to feel you had to feel the homicidal rage, which you're like, that's not me, right? Guess what? That's all going to come to us at some point, likely, each of us individually. Now, it is fleeting. But we're going to feel everything. Yep. Like it may just fly through you and you're like, what was that? Like when I had my suicidal thoughts in my nighttime, which is so not me. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like this is what it feels like to be suicidal. Okay.
Yes.
So what they're showing is all of this, what we've created in humankind, emotion, feeling, flying through us, but it's not us. I guess that's what I'll say. Well, it is. It's what we created ultimately, right? But we're re-experiencing it. They're kind of talking about to clear it, in other words, in some way. One other thing I want to add here, they're talking about stepping stones. Back to what you were talking about earlier, about the energies that you encountered and that it was the most divine you felt, right? Remember you were just saying? What they're talking about, and take this for what it's worth, I'm just giving you what I'm getting, is part of that, a big part of that is one of the things that is the goal, and I'm probably not going to use the right words, is that divine energy incarnate, God, source, whatever, incarnate, is us, okay? But those energies, we're not living in those energies, right? We're not at the height of what we can be. Those energies are what we will be, and we will live in human form, okay, if that makes sense, in bodily form. Remember how we've always talked about we're going to take our bodies with us in ascension? What they're trying to show me is that those energies that you're talking about, the highest divinity possible, that's why we're ascending. Our cells are changing, our body's changing, our structure's changing, so we can house those energies. And the actual body be able to encapsulate those energies to then live from.
Yes, that's right. So my idea of divinity prior to feeling this, it's a beautiful divinity, like around angelic or divine energy, what we know as the like divine roles, having that energy flow through your body is one of the most beautiful things that you can experience. Now, that being said, the energies that I'm feeling now are massive. There's so much more than that. They are that and then some. That's just almost a facet of their personality. What I felt in the past of like the divine energies. That's just a little facet of this other one's energy.
Well, that's because of the stepping stone. It's because of the stepping stone. You're taking, so everybody, what they're showing is everybody's got their own stepping stones to get to these places, like where you are. We're all in different phases of the journey, but it's important that you're doing this so that it helps others come, because it's all again, we go back to magnetics. You're pulling along by what you're doing and feeling and experiencing and allowing in you, you're pulling along the others. So that's what they're showing me. So go ahead.
And so what I would say, like going back to what, had I experienced what I felt recently back when I was having some of these difficulties, I would have done just what I said before. I would have stopped myself for a moment and expanded my field. Even if it felt artificial, doesn't matter, just do it. Stop whatever it is, whatever you're feeling, if you're going in a panic or freaking out a little bit, stop and just push your field out as big as you can, okay? I feel the entirety of my multidimensional being. Remember, this is not bigger than you. Whatever you're feeling is not bigger than you.
Nothing is bigger than you. And so like the visualization of light, I'm seeing what they're showing me is think white light, and think white light expanding out. You can even go to the levels of your auric field and out further, and just like a atomic explosion, right?
Yes, that's right. You are explosive light. You are infinite light. Your experience of any of these things, it having that reaction is in the it's a human fear is a human construct, as we know, but it is a coping mechanism. But you have to remember how big your being is. You have to remember how big you are, and you feel vulnerable in this body, but you're not. You actually are. You still are that big, magnificent being. So that would be my only advice. You'll start to embody it and feel it more as you experience it personally. It's not really something I can convey other than, and please do this for yourself.
Because
expand yourself.
Yes, because the thing is, when we talk about remember how powerful you are, we have no frame of reference for that in our human journey. So it's about imagining that, because imagining is, okay?
It brings it to you.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
does.
Because thoughts are things and that
Mhm.
whole situation. That's why one of the big parts of awakening journey, a lot of people get the message, imagine, get your imagination, creativity going because you're creating out of
Mhm.
that. But we don't have a
Yes.
frame of reference in this journey. So a lot of people will be like, oh God, I don't know what that's like to be the biggest I could possibly be.
Yes.
Imagine in your mind.
Imagination is your bridge to remembrance.
Mhm.
So even if you feel like you're fantasizing, go for it. Be
Exactly.
as creative and imaginative and outlandishly as push it as far as you possibly can, because frankly, your imagination, your ability to fantasize isn't actually bigger than what you really are. So let
Right.
it fly, get it as big as you can, because it's going to actually allow you to expand to the point where you start to get to where you will remember.
Mhm.
So don't feel bad about, am I making that up? Go for it. Get as crazy imaginative as you possibly can. You're not even touching the surface of what is real.
Mhm.
You push your imagination to its farthest extent. It is a bridge to get you to remember who you really are. And it will get you there. So expanding yourself to meet some of the challenges that are coming, you will start to realize just how massive your being is. And some of these things that are coming to meet you are coming to meet you because of how massive you are,
Yeah,
actually.
yes, exactly. It's one is the other. Right.
Yeah, right. So, and the silver lining to this is there is a massive uncovering right now. There is a huge, unlike any other time. You know how we hear that you guys are here for the most incredible time. Every eye is watching.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is riveted on what is happening here, because there are some incredible things going on right now.
Mhm.
And we are like right in the middle of it. So, and I want to remind everyone that nobody can do this better than you. They don't give these bodies to just everybody for
No.
ascension, right?
Yes.
You were chosen for this because of the mastery and the size of your being, the knowledge, the wisdom, the ability. You were chosen for this. You can do this.
Yes.
Don't be afraid.
Yes. And what I'm getting here is, as you're talking, all galactic eyes are on us. What I'm also picking up is, and this kind of takes us a little further, is that they use the word guinea pigs, but just for our frame of reference, is what I'm understanding is that obviously this is the first time this is being done in this way, but it's also, they're saying, a model for future civilizations. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yes, it does. We are like pioneers almost for this entire process. So, own that, own it. Say, this is like my baby. I'm here doing this thing, right?
Mhm.
Own it. You are the one creating it. You are the sculptor.
Yes.
There's nothing about this that you cannot modify, customize, add tweaks to make it, because this is like the prototype, right?
Yeah. And I'm not talking, when I say civilization, I'm not talking human civilization. I'm talking galactic.
All,
Yes.
all,
Yes.
yes.
Because this
What
is
are they?
actually more advanced than what we've got out there
Yes,
already.
yes,
It's just
that's
very,
right.
yes. And one
Yes.
thing, I'm going to go back real quickly and then we're going to jump back. I want to share this. They said, the visualization we talked about imagining and creating.
Yes.
They gave me the visual of go out galactic, go out in the stars. That's where you are. That's your power. Yes. Go that far. Don't just be here. Go out and see the cosmic world.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's right.
So anyway, back to this being the guinea pigs, or being the, we are a grand experiment. Okay. We're a grand experiment, but it's for the collective galactic good. It's
all that is. It is for all that is. It is not just for this planet. It is extending to everything that exists. It is for all of creation. Mm-hmm. So it is not a small thing. Mm-hmm. And you imagine the responsibility that's been placed on our being. That's why I'm saying they don't give these to anybody.
No.
Right?
Not
Own
everybody gets to just show up. Not at all.
no.
There's a
Mhm.
no, exactly. I've been told that over and over. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So own that about yourself, even though you may not feel it or remember it yet. You need to know if you are here now, you are known. Okay. You are skilled. You are the master. You are the one they chose. At the group, somebody needs to go do this thing. They pointed to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do this. But try to remember how big your being is. So when some of these hard things roll in, you can expand yourself out to that galactic cosmic being that you truly are to manage that energy that might become rolling your way. Okay. It'll roll right through you if you're in the state of empowerment.
So let me take you to a different place with this so we can add a
Sure.
little more context to this practice.
Yes.
In doing that,
Mhm.
they're showing that there are many, I mean, everybody can create their own process, but is there value is this a thought process that you would use? Or is this one of those where you're physically, like some of us would be getting up and standing and going, and screaming out loud and saying, I mean, what process are you recommending that this is done in? Does that make sense? Like a physical way, or does it matter?
Well, this is okay. So I can recommend. So what I say and what I do might be differently,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right. Me too.
So what you were just saying, in my personal experience, all of the above. It's been a very highly creative, calm, and meditative, and it's also been screaming at the universe at this, it depending on where I am in managing my state, right?
Mhm.
But all of the above has happened here. Okay.
Mhm.
So, depending on the level of grace, the level of grace that you want to go through this, which was, I was like, yeah, I'd love to go through this with complete grace and
Yeah.
dignity, but it has come time where I am not there. Right.
Yeah.
So I've done all of those things in order to compensate for, and cope with and handle some of the energies that have rolled through my field as well. But
can I say something?
yes.
Let me add something to this, because what I'm also getting is we do a lot of, and I do believe we have spirit help around us, angels, guides, all that. But I think a lot of us, and I'm one of those that finally flipped this around, but where I reach out for others to help me and make the thing happen, when big part of this is taking it and doing it yourself. I mean, yes, call in your team for sure, but then do it yourself. So a good example of that for me was when I had those horrible suicide thoughts, waking up in the middle of the night. And then I am one of those, I try to figure it out. Like, is it this? Is it that? I analyze. And that's actually, for me, a really good thing to do. And then all of a sudden I stood up, it's like 2 a.m. I stood up and I'm like, this is not me. This is not me. I do not have suicide. I mean, and so I went through this whole process, but it wasn't a human thing that made me do it. I just was led to let this energy out and say, this is not me. I understand what it must be like to feel suicidal, at times, because this energy is running through me, which was the point we made earlier. We may feel a lot of the collective stuff, right? But it's not me. It's not me. It's not going to live in me. So I did that. And oh my gosh, talk about a power moment.
Yes.
But
yes, absolutely. My team is always saying, take command and control. And they're when we're calm and we're joking, they're kind of sitting around and they're like, it's funny, we're here waiting for you to tell us what to do. They're asking us so they'll do what we want, but in reality, they are here as support for us, right?
Absolutely.
They're waiting for us to say what I need, right?
Yeah.
So that's why in a lot of ways, I'm like, sometimes I would say, well, I want this to happen this way. And I would just say, whatever this energy is, I may not understand all the logistics that are going on, but I want this to happen X, Y, and Z in these 3 steps. And I'm like, and I'd look at him and I say to my guardian, is that possible? And he goes, it's possible now. He always makes this little thing back to me, like, or I'd say, you guys need to be able to see me and do, like, no matter where I am, what I'm doing, I created this thing where beings that are viewing us as humans see us in layers. So they don't just see the very last thing where a frequency change. They need to understand how we got there. Mm-hmm. So when they're viewing us and we're asking questions, they can answer us in a more efficient manner. And I said, you guys need to see us almost in layers. I said, can somebody create that, please? And they said, you just did. Right.
Right.
So they're trying to remind me, you're doing this.
Yes.
Everything that you say and you think of, or you want somebody to go get you this or create that or make this happen. Is that possible? You're making it possible by wanting it. Right.
Well, and that's why thoughts are things is such a powerful statement.
Yes.
And right now also why, and I'm just going off a little bit on a different pathway, but right now why we see also in the collective, in the world, why things are so chaotic, because people's thoughts are all over the place and they're
Yes.
creating, we're in a manifestation time where we're just, our thoughts are, they're
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
And so it's also getting a hold of what you're thinking about and what
Yes.
you want to present out there. And so then as you have the
Mhm.
thought of, okay, here's what I want,
Mhm.
then it becomes real and you get your support, you've asked for that support for that thing. Now,
Yes.
I will say, and again, I'm getting back to practical kind of conversation in not everybody hears them, their support
Yes.
talk. So
Yes.
maybe we want to speak to that a little bit, because I just don't, a lot of people will get wrapped up in, okay, but wait a minute, you said you hear them. I don't hear them. So
Mhm. Well, it is the level at which you are participating, that you want to participate or that you are participating. Many of the things that I am aware that are going on around me now, here and on other realms where the veil doesn't necessarily allow me to see and hear in the typical sense, I wasn't aware of before, but, have been assured you've been doing it your whole life, whether you knew
yes,
it or not,
exactly.
right? So I'm not saying that it's necessary or that you have to be in that level of communication with your team, because you still are doing it. You're doing it through your intention and your own integrity. Is how
And
you're
we don't have
creating.
to, yes. And as we think the thing, we don't have to hear the response. They
Correct.
hear us. That's to me always been the key component of connecting with your team. Not everybody is clairaudient. Yes,
Mhm.
you will very much grow into your gift.
Yeah. Everybody has the ability to be if
Yes.
they want to, right? But you don't have to if you don't want to. That's
Well,
not.
and then the next question is, well, how do I go about doing that? And then people wrap their minds up in, what do I do? I believe firmly it's a natural process of wanting the thing and then just letting it happen, put that manifestation out there and allowing it. But the point here for this purpose is, even if you don't hear back like you and I do, like that conversation that we have, you've put that out there still. They hear you.
Oh, they always hear you. Yeah.
Yes. So don't get wrapped around the axle of feeling less powerful, right?
That's right.
I'm not like them. I don't have that gift. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It's okay. Everybody has these gifts. They're just presented in a different way at this point in time for you. We still have that power to be able to connect in.
Yeah, and you can cultivate that if you want to. There's ways to do that, to be in touch.
Yes.
If you want to start hearing that, but don't ever be in doubt.
No.
What you say is being heard.
Exactly.
And your wishes and desires and creations are being followed through with and being done.
Yeah, and I think that's key for what we're talking about here, because if people in the example we're talking about wake up in the middle of the night like I did with the suicidal thoughts, like we have to have a process that we can trust and go to, rather than trying to say, well, now wait a minute, how do I learn how to channel my team real quickly? They don't have to. Have to.
Yeah. So for me, it is the empowerment that has grown in me over time because I had these experiences. So I'm in the position now where I want to tell my experiences, but I also it's not lost on me that people need to have the experience themselves to have a full comprehension of what I'm saying. So I would just suggest being in that state of mind, remembering and owning the fact that your being is huge, and then trying to expand your field, to expand yourself out to meet, to encompass, to engage and embody say, my intention is, and my desire is to expand into my larger being, to embody more of my source being, to feel what my multidimensional source being feels like. And you don't have to be in distress to do that. It can be all day long, every day, at every moment. I want to feel this way. Start getting yourself in the practice of it so it starts coming into you in a natural way. And that way, when some of this other stuff starts rolling in, it's kind of an easy expand. One of the things they say to me, they try to remind me when I feel a little bit, they'll say, how do they say? Source is breathing you, meaning that there is no separation between you and source. And they'll say to, I hear it sometimes whispered in my ear, like, I need to connect to my source. I need, and I'm going through these processes. Like I'll get a little whisper in the ear that you have all my time and attention. And it's like, I'm right here. Right. So as I'm thinking about source being so much bigger than me and so much further outside and so much higher and whatever, and then I get a little whisper in the ear, you've got all my time and attention, just to remind me how close it is me, right? It is you, and how close they're right there. They're you.
Exactly. Something that's coming in as you're talking, the process that you were talking about, we can use that day to day in our, just stay out in work, you have a meeting or whatever's going on in your day to day, to be able to fill yourself with that light and to expand that out in a way that allows you to experience what we're talking about here in everyday life, and to then start living from that. The other thing that they mentioned, or that I want to mention, is I think it's worth noting that what we have been told, and you're one good example of this, is there are those in the collective who are going first. And I'm saying it's what they're showing to me. You're one of them. Like you're experiencing things. Okay. They just said the word buffer. You're like a buffer. Okay. So you get slammed with a lot of this. And then what happens is they're showing force. Okay. So they're saying you take some of that force, some of that hit, and then it reverberates back, but it's lesser for a lot of people because those like you went first in this, you know what I'm saying? The kind of, okay, doing the breaststroke, you're getting through, creating the wake, you can use a gazillion metaphors that they're throwing into me right now. You've created a wake for others to come through with your experiences. So not everybody is going to feel the full on, thank God, stuff that you have felt, or they're going to feel a lesser degree, or some may feel some of that. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's important for people to understand that there are those out there that their mission is to very much take that initial brunt force and of all the stuff that's out there that we're coming through, that we talked about with the coming out of the basement. Yes. And because we're dealing with all of it now in the collective, it's all coming up, everything.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that you say that, because in the something that I've always just been curious about is how, they always say you're doing enough, stop trying to volunteer for more stuff. But how I take my experience and I utilize it with other humans, right? Because so much of what's happened to me, I mean, you and maybe one other person are the only ones who I've told the extent of the experiences, because they're just that you have to expand your mind and your ability to even grasp some of the stuff that's gone on. So it's not like I necessarily can get up and start having this conversation typically.
Well, and if you think about it, ours have been over a period of a couple of years now where this has unfolded to even be able to understand it. And so to your point, exactly, it's not going to be, it'd be very difficult to connect in with the greater understanding of all the detail of what you've been through. But suffice.
So I find myself in the position of almost like, you're going to have to take my word for it. You know what I mean? Because I can't actually tell you the whole thing, but I can tell you, I've seen the end of much of the challenges that are unfolding, because we determined very early much of what happens to me unfolds for the collective 2-3 months later, sometimes a whole year later, but it already occurred. I've already gone through it, and it unfolds in a almost bite-sized pieces to the collective, where I might have got it like a cosmic 2x4, right?
Right. To that point of you taking the force first. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I have a unique perspective that I've actually seen the resolution of a lot of the things that people might start experiencing, going, oh my God, what is happening? I've actually had the experience of going through it already, finding the resolution, and having it completely tied up, signed, sealed, and delivered, and seeing the other side of it, which is something fabulously beautiful.
And I think that's a fantastic thing to have a short discussion before we wrap up, because
sure,
you have the point here is we are going to get through this. I mean, everybody will get through this, and
that's right.
And it's already, how do I want to explain this? And I'll let you talk about it, but it's already been done. It's you want to talk a little bit about some of that? I don't know how far you want to go, because it does give people hope. But the point is it's now about having faith in yourself to be able to actually go through this process.
Yeah. For if nothing else, I would just want us as a collective, as individuals, to start realizing how valuable we are, and how amazing we are, and how we are seen by the, what do they say to us a lot of times when we see big groups, like huge stadiums full of people, and they'll say the citizens of the universe.
Yeah.
Okay. That is what is watching right now. That is the, sometimes I'll get waves of love or admiration poured over me, these huge, and that's what they'll show me this. You don't realize as you're going through this, you guys don't realize how much admiration, how much love, how much support, how much, like, most other beings that I have conversations, we couldn't do what you're doing.
No.
We've never. I said, have you ever incarnated? We couldn't do what you're doing, honey. Yeah, there's no, we have not.
Well, see, this goes back to coming out of, and so a lot of people hearing this, I'm not necessarily, I mean, we've got an awakening audience, so they're getting this, but the point of this is coming out of the sludge and the muck and what we've turned ourselves into, of being unworthy, of being feeling shameful, of feeling no self-love, or, it's all degrees of this. And no wonder in the awakening, that's what we have to come out through. We have to experience it all, and we have to come out through, so that, and again, it's an internal journey into self-love and understanding the power. And when we get the self-love moving forward for us individually, then we start regaining our power, really reclaiming our power. Not finding our power, it's just reclaiming it. It's just having it come back up in us to the point that we're making in this entire conversation. And then we're able to maneuver through to the other side.
Yes. And it's if you can manage yourself into dropping a lot of this, it's like talking to your own child. What would you tell your child? There's no need for you to be worried. There's no need for you to be upset. There's no need for you to believe that you're not doing well. You're so loved. You're perfect the way you are. It's the things that you maybe would tell a child that you need to start telling yourself.
Yes.
And start realizing, drop this stuff. Now, if you can't seem to manage yourself into dropping it, it will be taken off of you. You will not have it after a while. But if you can get yourself there now and drop that and start to envision yourself as allow the empowerment in, it's right there.
Well, and I think the process to that is what happens in the awakening is past life clearing, inner child work, people that come our way, reliving, karmic stuff, going through all of that is the awakening journey, to be able to then start feeling more and more like, oh, I can do that, what you just said.
Yes. I survived this. I actually went through this thing that I felt in this uncomfortable experience that I had for a week. I got through it, but I don't have that same level of fear. That fear is gone. I'll never fear that again.
Exactly.
Right? I went through it. I survived it. Right. So it does eventually get off of you, and it doesn't affect you anymore. but as you're being challenged with, try to at least balance, right? Balance what you're experiencing as you're human and the difficulty that it is and the validation that you're feeling it with the vision of your larger being in its expanded state.
Exactly.
Try to give yourself that gift.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Now, as I said earlier, I'm going to finish with reading a piece from the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. All right, it's by Levi Dowling. Now, here's the summary of him for those of you who don't know and haven't heard of this. So I'm going to read this. It says, Dowling said he received the text of the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ while in a trance state. Mind you, this was in the early 1900s, in which he was able to gain access to the Akashic records. To Dowling, these ethereal records were a cosmic ledger of all human action. So this book is fascinating that it actually came into my understanding and knowing right now, because we are moving into, as you well know, out of the Pisces age energies into the Aquarian age energies. Okay? This is meant for these times, right? And the thing is, what he covers, what he channels, is basically missing years and missing knowledge from the journey of Jesus. And frankly, it's fascinating. Because as you know, if you know anything about Western religion or Christianity in general, we have a lot we don't know about Jesus in the standard way we're taught. Okay? So it's actually very interesting. It'll also reinforce a lot of what you probably already have learned or come into remembrance of or knowing. So anyway, that's the book. I highly recommend it. Particularly those of you who have some biblical understanding, I guess I'll say, or were raised in maybe a West or Christian faith, because, well, as we know, so much has shifted and changed, and for the good of the powers that try to control us. So needless to say, this clarifies a lot. And again, you can, as I do, everything I read, I take and go, okay, that resonates, or I don't know about that. So really what you're doing is you're creating your own library by the things that you actually read and of what you decide to take for truth for yourself. Okay, I'm going to read this because it ties to what we just talked about. And Jesus stood erect among the hungry beasts and birds and said, What is this darkness that envelopes me? 'Tis but the absence of the light. And what is light? 'Tis but the breath of God vibrating in the rhythm of rapid thought. And then he said, Let there be light. And with a mighty will he stirred the ethers up, and their vibrations reached the place of light, and there was light. The darkness of that den of night became the brightness of a newborn day. And then he looked to see the beasts and birds and creeping things. Lo, they were not. And Jesus said, Of what are souls afraid? Fear is the chariot in which man rides to death. And when he finds himself within the chamber of the dead, he learns that he has been deceived. His chariot was a myth, and death a fancy child. So that is, I mean, what a way to end this, right? I just thought that was fantastic, really speaking to that idea of fear and what we often do as humans in creating from the inside of us the things we ultimately end up fearing. So essentially, we're in control of that. So with that today, I'm going to finish up. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And I'll remind you of purplerainhealing.com, where you can go see more about what I do, and you can learn more about my story too. My services are all listed there. I would absolutely love to work with you. I've worked with so many of you over time doing channeled personal messages that really help you understand your past lives and how they impact you in your journey now, as well as other things going on in your journey. We talk about past, present, and future in the channeled messages. Typically, we respond back to your questions as well. And these past lives that we offer you, if they come through, are really here, not just for fun. They're here to help you understand what's going on in your current journey, what you might be clearing, what you might be dealing with, and why. Because we are in such a time of past lives coming up, clearing them out, so we can be lighter and continue to ascend in this journey. We can't carry all that forward from these past lives, as well as our current journey traumas. I also offer distance energy healing, and I offer spiritual awakening and ascension mentoring, where I work with you regularly one-on-one, and then we just catch up on what's been going on in your journey, and we work on what you'd like to achieve, and also unraveling the things such as past lives that may be impacting you today, and we do that one-on-one via Zoom or on the phone. They are really powerful, and I have so enjoyed working with so many of you, and I'd love to work with many more of you. So check it out, purplerainhealing.com, and thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you in the next video.